මම ලයිසියම් ජාත්‍යන්තර පාසලේ සෙනාදි දම්යා දල්විස්. මම කලා විෂය ධාරාවෙන් තමයි මේ උසස් පෙළ හැදෑරුවේ. කතිකාචාර්යවරියක් වීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ කළමනාකාර ශාස්ත්‍රයේ දැනුමක් ලබා ගන්න CMA පාඨමාලාව හදාරනවා.
ලෝහ පිළිගත් කළමනාකරණ ගණකාධිකාරීවරයෙකු වීමට පාර්ලිමේන්තු පන්තින් සංස්ථාපනය කරන ලද ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ එකම කළමනාකරණ ගණකාධිකාරී ආයතනය CMA ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඔබේ අනාගත ජයග්‍රහණයට.
Have a nice day, my dear children. Today we are going to discuss about the first lesson of business studies under the commerce stream. That is, inquire the business basis of business and the environment in which operates. These topics we have to discuss under 9 subheadings. It is starting with the concepts of the business. Okay, let's go to the first subheading, that is about introduction to business. Here, the first thing we want to understand the needs and wants. I think sometimes you all are familiar with what are the needs and wants, but we want to know exactly what is a need, what is a want, and the main differences between the needs and wants. So first thing, that is needs. What is a need? Needs are the physical and mental conditions which are compulsory to be fulfilled by the humans. So it is must to fulfill these mental and the physical conditions by human beings. So for an example, can we live without foods? Can we live without clothes? Can we live without houses? And can we live without medicine or health? So these are basic things each and every person should fulfill. So therefore, it is must for individual to or the people to meet this or have this mental or the physical conditions. These are we call as needs. Then what are the wants? Wants are different from needs, but these are somehow interrelated. Wants are different ways fulfilling the needs. So for an example, if you are hungry, if you need food, so we have different ways for fulfilling it. For an example, we can eat bread, or if we can eat rice or noodle, or maybe a burger. So there are different ways for fulfilling this food need. So therefore, wants we can define as different ways for fulfilling the needs. So there are some differences between needs and wants. If we go one by one, here we can see the characteristics of needs and wants. The first thing, needs are limited. That's mean actually, so we have like everybody has like limited number of needs, but wants are unlimited. That's mean actually, so wants maybe like sometimes it can be 100 or thousands. For an example, if the need is food, so there are different wants for food. For an example, we can eat bread, we can eat rice, we can eat fried rice, or maybe pasta, or maybe noodle, or maybe burger, or different ways. So therefore, wants are unlimited. The next thing, needs are common for everybody or every person. So doesn't matter whether A or B or you or me. So we all need to fulfill these needs. But wants are different from person to person. Why it is different from person to person? If you are hungry, sometimes you want to eat rice. If I am hungry, maybe I would prefer to eat bread. So therefore, wants are different from person to person. The next thing, essential for survival. Needs are essential for survival. Without needs, without fulfilling the needs, we cannot survive. So at least actually, so we cannot survive without food, we cannot survive without clothes, we cannot survive without house. It can be different type of house, maybe luxury house or the small house. So but anyway, everybody need to have a house. And the health, if you are sick, if you are not in a good health condition, definitely you need some medicine. So these things are very essential, and these things are very essential for survival of human beings. But look at the wants. Wants are not essential for survival. Without wants, without bread, you can survive. Without fried rice, you can survive. Without a burger, you can survive. So therefore, wants are not essential for survival. And the next thing, cannot be created by businessmen. Needs cannot be created by businessmen, but wants can be created by businessmen. Most of the time, wants are created by businessmen. So today you may be like, you have something like a if it is passion, if it is clothes actually, so maybe like you want to wear a frock if you are a girl. So maybe tomorrow like you are prefer to have a denim and a t-shirt, maybe different types of t-shirt, different types of denim, different type of skirt, different type of blouses. So all these things are created by the businessman. But look at the needs. Needs cannot be created by the businessman. And the next thing, needs cannot be changed by social forces. These things cannot be changed by economic factors or the environmental factors, social factors, or whatever other conditions. These things cannot be changed, or the needs cannot be changed. But look at the wants. Wants can be changed by the social forces. For an example, if it is a rainy day, maybe like we would like to wear a jacket. If it is a warm day, maybe like we would prefer to like wear a very like a light t-shirt, maybe a skirt. So these things can be changed by the social forces. Therefore, you want to understand what does it mean by needs, what does it mean by wants, and what are the main characteristics or the differences between wants and the needs. If we first start with the products, what is a product? Yes, product is anything offered to the market which fulfills human needs and wants. I will say it again, product is anything that offered to the market that fulfills the human needs and wants. So there are different ways actually, so we can fulfill our needs and wants. The first thing, that is, we need goods. So maybe like we need a mobile phone, we need some foods, we need some clothes. All these things are coming under goods. But apart from that, if you are sick, if you don't feel well, you have to go to the doctor. Doctor gives some consultancy or some advices. These are different from goods. So we cannot see it, we cannot touch it. Likewise, these things we call as service. Maybe like if you can go to bank, you can get the service over there. So therefore, to meet the human needs and wants, we want to have goods or services. So all these things together we call as products. What are the characteristics of goods? What are the characteristics of services? See here, goods are tangible. We can touch it, we can store it, we can transform it one place to another place. Goods are mainly tangible. And the second thing, can be stored. So we can take it home and store somewhere. Even actually, so if you go to the grocery or maybe shop, they store over there. So therefore, goods can be stored. The third point you can see here, that is, identical products can be produced. What does it mean by identical? If you purchase something, that I can purchase same thing or the similar thing from the vendor or from the grocery. For an example, if you go to the grocery and you assume that you want to buy a ballpoint pen. So you buy a ballpoint pen, then next I go to the same grocery and same shop, and I also wanted to have a pen. So I also buy a pen. So the pen you bought, it's similar to the pen bought me. So that's mean actually, so there is a identical nature. So therefore, products can be produced in the identical nature. But services are different. We can discuss it later. And the next thing, separable from the producer. What does it mean by separable from the producer? For an example, sometimes we bought some products, like for an example, you may have a smartphone, you may have a laptop, you may have some bags or whatever other things, but you don't know who is a producer, who has manufactured it. Sometimes actually, so they mention that made in Sri Lanka, made in China, or likewise, but we don't know exactly who has produced it. So that's also another, like that's mean actually, so product can be separable from the producer or the manufacturer. That's also another characteristics of goods. If we move to the services, here you can see some characteristics of services. Services are intangible. We cannot touch. If you go to the doctor and get some consultancy, you cannot see it. You cannot touch it. So, and also actually, so you cannot store it. You cannot bring it home and store it somewhere, maybe the refrigerator or maybe the cupboard. We cannot store them. And the next thing you can see that varies according to the service provider. That is also important. If you go to the doctor A for the same problem, if you go to the doctor B, the service given by two patients are different. Two doctors are different. The way I am delivering the lecture, this is also kind of service, and also the way other lecturer delivering the lecture, that is totally different. So that's when actually, so the services are varies according to the service provider. So whether I am or someone else, so these are the way of giving the service, that is different. And the last thing you can see here, inseparable from the service provider. So we cannot without me, you cannot get my service. Without the doctor, you cannot get the service. But for the goods, so without the producer, you can get the product. So therefore, the services are separable from the service provider. That is also important characteristics of service. Then the next point you want to understand, market. What is a market? We can define market as any situation where buyers and sellers meet or connected. I think this is very much important. Meet or connect. Buyers and sellers meet or connect. Why it is important actually? So why it is defined as any situation? Because if perhaps you has, you all have gone to the market, even the small grocery or maybe shop or maybe like a supermarket, at least once in your life actually, so you have visited over there. So therefore, in that case actually, so you know actually, so there are some sellers, you go to the seller, maybe you are the buyer, you buy something or some stuffs or some goods. So this is a kind of market where the place the buyers and sellers are made. But in addition to that actually, so sometimes we don't go to exactly we don't visit the place, we don't visit the shop, we don't visit the supermarket. But nowadays actually, so we have the opportunity to log into the internet and order some, whatever we need actually. So maybe the goods we can order through online. So therefore, the online also, this online platform also, the place, or I would say it's a situation where buyers and sellers are connected. You log into the internet and maybe you can order maybe the smartphone or the laptop or maybe like some foods, or maybe like if you want to taste like a pizza or order pizza, you can log into the internet, go to their site and order it. So therefore, market is a situation or any situation where buyers and sellers meet or connect. That is important. So therefore, I think mainly we have to discuss under this, what is a product, what are the goods, what are the services, and what is a market. So then we can go into the next thing, that is about the business. I think now we know products, now you know the market, now we know the wants and needs, now you know the goods and services. Then you want to know about the business. What is a business? Business is, all the activities related to the production, distribution, selling of goods and services with a profit motive in order to satisfy human needs and wants. The important things, why we need to have actually so businesses, mainly to satisfy the human needs and wants. But what are the things that are doing by the businesses? It can be like a production, distribution, sales of goods and services with a profit motive. This is important, of course, actually. So most of the businesses are running with the purpose of making profit or earning money or making profit. But not all the businesses focus on profit. I mean, there are some businesses, they are not for making profit or earning profit. Therefore, what's the best way to define the business? Business is any economic activity. Business is any economic activity which fulfills human needs and wants. So therefore, because there are some businesses, they are not focusing profit making, but their main purpose is to fulfill or satisfy the human needs and wants. Therefore, what is the best way to define the business? Business is any economic activity which fulfills human needs and wants. What are the main characteristics again about the business? So business exchange or selling takes place. Of course actually, so either exchange, transform from one person to another person, exchange. So I give something, reciprocally I received something from you. So that is kind of exchange. Exchange or selling. I think you all know what does it mean by selling. So selling means the vendor or the seller give something, reciprocally he received money. So exchange or selling takes place, that is important characteristics of a business. And then the second thing you can see here, transaction of goods and services take place. Of course actually, so if it is a business, definitely actually, so how we can fulfill the human needs and wants, we need goods and services. Therefore, in a business, the transaction of goods and services should be taken place. And the next thing, continuous transaction will be take place. I think that is also important. Sometimes for an example, in your garden you may have like, for an example, you may have like rose apple in your garden. What you can do actually, so if you have like a surplus of rose apple, you can ask your neighbors or maybe like your friends. So I have like enough rose apple, so I can sell one rose apple for 5 rupees. So you can do the kind of transaction. So you can earn like a short term, you can earn or make some money. But is it continuous? Is it sustainable? No. So once you done it, so then that's over. So therefore these kind of things are not businesses. If it is a business, definitely there should be a continuation. And the next thing you can see, motivated by profit. So why businesses are running? Of course actually, so majority of businesses are running for the profit. If you earn more money, if you earn or if you make more profit, that's a motivation for running the business. So therefore, businessmen or the businesses are motivated by profit. And you can see in a business has a risk. Of course actually, so businesses are running because if you are not a risk taker, if you are not a risk lover, of course actually, so it's really challenging for you to do a business. So therefore, it's very important if you are running a business, so that's mean actually, so it's a kind of taking risk. We don't know what will happen next day, whether our customers leave the company, leave the business, whether economic conditions might be changed, whether government impose some taxes, change their, the policies. So any kind of things can be happen. In addition to that, sometimes it can be happen some environmental changes, maybe like tsunami or flooding or this kind of environmental disasters can be happen. So if you are, the running a business, that's mean of course actually, so taking kind of risk. So therefore, it is also important factor here. Then you can say, see here, create bonds. I think earlier also we discussed businesses are create bonds. Of course actually, so today you are having like a kind of a smartphone, maybe tomorrow, next year. So they give new version of that, adding new features, adding new like qualities. So lot of things they add, and then next year you may feel, oh, this is an old fashion, I don't need it, I want something else. So therefore, businesses are mainly creates bonds. So that is also important. The last point here you can see it is an economic activity. Economic activity means actually, of course actually, so there should be a like economic value or monetary value. I think these are some characteristics of a business. So let me quickly go to the next thing, that is the evolution of business. So the first thing you want to know, before like creating businesses, what was the earliest thing? So how people fulfill their needs and wants, that is important to know. So earlier days, so our the grandparents era, so how they fulfill their needs and wants, basically that was a kind of self-sufficient economic system. That's mean actually, so whatever the things that you need, so you produce it for yourself. So for an example, if you need some like vegetables, you grow vegetables in your garden. So if you need some egg or chicken, you might have like a couple of chicken in your farm. So likewise actually, so earlier, I mean the before like businesses are emerged, so what was the earliest thing? That is kind of direct production. That's mean actually, so one produce his own requirements by himself. If you need something, you produce it for yourself. So that was the earlier stage of, I mean the what was the situation before business starting. So with that actually, so when you are direct producing, that's mean actually, so if you are growing vegetables in your garden, if you have a if you have a farm in your garden, in your home, so then you become a specialized for that, or the person become a specialized for that. If you are growing vegetables, that means you become a specialized on growing vegetables. With that, what was happen actually, so it creates some surplus of production. So I think that's mean actually, so whatever the, I mean the things you produce in your garden or maybe in your home, that is more to your consumption. So there is a surplus. So then what was happen actually, so there is another thing actually, so maybe like you are not like you cannot like have everything in your home, everything in your garden, or maybe everything in your farm. So therefore what was happen actually, so some people might have like a surplus of vegetable, some people has surplus of egg. So likewise actually, so these kind of things has happened. So therefore what was the earliest stage of the first stage of the business evolution? That was the barter system. The barter system mean actually, so people started exchanging their surpluses. If I have extra of eggs, so then I exchange with someone who has extra vegetables. So that was the first stage of business evolution. So but there are some limitations because there are, I mean the not because not matching the needs, and also actually, so it was like they don't know exactly actually, so for a 10 eggs how many or how much of vegetables that I need to have. So there was some drawbacks or the limitations of this barter system. Then therefore they went to the second stage, that was use of money or money use stage. That is the second stage of this business evolution. So in the money use stage, there are a couple of stages of course actually. So first thing, use of material. Early stage of this money use, people use or people exchange some use material. Some example, seashells, not like an island, but seashells, you all know that, and that tobacco, like these kind of things people use as money. The second thing you can see, use of metal. Maybe like because due to the difficulties of like and the drawbacks of using the materials, people used to use metals like gold or silver. But again actually, so it also has some issues or the drawbacks or the limitations because it has some value. If it is gold, of course actually, so it's really valuable metal. So therefore likewise actually, so there were some drawbacks on it. And then it comes to the third stage, that is metal money. That's mean actually, so the value that was printed in the base of the metal piece, like if it is like a pound, it has printed in the on the space of the I mean the base of the metal piece. And the next stage you can see the use of coins and notes. I think you all are familiar with that actually. So of course actually, so even today we are using the coins and notes, like but it doesn't include the intrinsic value, just a nominal value. So you know in Sri Lanka we are using Sri Lankan rupees, and America, North America, they are using like a United States of America, they are using the dollars, and the Canadian people, they are using the Canadian dollar, and the European people, they are using the euro, I mean the region, they are using the euro. So likewise actually, so people are using nowadays, mostly we are using coins and notes. And then next stage, that would be the bank money, use of bank money. So mainly actually, so I think through the current accounts, perhaps you have seen a check. So the mainly actually, so for the purpose of the businesses, people try to use, or people used to use checks for the business purposes or the transaction purposes. That was actually so not very popular among the, I mean the layman's or the normal people, mainly for that was really advantage for the business people. I think mostly actually, so most of the business transactions are done through this I mean the bank checks or the current account checks. And then actually, so the next stage, that is the use of electronic money. I think we all are like now familiar with this electronic use of the electronic money. E-transactions are done with the computerized network. You can use actually, so your credit card, your debit card, perhaps you don't have a credit card or the debit card, but your parents, your mother or father, they are having credit card or debit card. You can go to the shop, and instead of giving the coins and notes, you can offer your card, either debit card or the credit card, and make the payment. Even actually, so online transaction, of course, actually, so definitely you have to have a credit card or the debit card if you want to do a the online transaction. There are some other ways, of course, but mainly actually, so we are using the credit card and debit card for the the electronic transactions or e-transactions. This is the second stage of the business evolution. If I quickly go to the third stage, here you can see the third stage, that is industrial revolution. Perhaps you already heard about what is this industrial revolution. That was started in Great Britain. So earlier, most of the time actually, so what was the nature of the businesses? That was very like a family oriented, very small, like cottage type industries. There were in the home based cottage industries were there. But what was the lecture with the industrial revolution? Like a with the introduction of the technologies and the big machineries and these kind of things, it is started actually, so industrial revolution, that is starting from the Great Britain and spread all over the world. So mainly that was what was happened actually. So it has the starting point of the the construction of larger scale businesses. So then people moved from the small cottage type industries to larger scale companies, and they come over there and work for a salary, work for the salary or wages. I think that has make a huge conversion, transform in the business industry. So I think this is also help to build the commerce. I think commerce, it is very important. In the commerce, there are two branches, one thing trade, other one is the auxiliaries or the support services. Here you can see that if we take trades, here you can see trades, again we can divide into two, like local businesses and the foreign businesses. The local business, again we can divide into two, like retail and the wholesale businesses. Retail and wholesale business. I think local mean within the geographical area, within the Sri Lanka. So we have retail businesses, we have wholesale businesses. What does it mean by retail? What does it mean by wholesale? Retail mean selling the product for the end consumption. So if you go to the grocery, if you if you buy a book, so that's not with the purpose of reselling. So that's for your consumption. That is an example for the retail businesses. And the wholesale business. What does it mean by wholesale business? Wholesale means actually, so some businessmen, they purchase bulk with the purpose of reselling it. So maybe like some people actually, so some businessmen, they can go to the the manufacturer, they are buying it as a bulk with the purpose of reselling selling it to maybe some other wholesaler or maybe the end users. So I think that's about the wholesale. And then the foreign businesses, we can divide into two. So you can see here, that is about import and export. What does it mean by import? What does it mean by export? Import mean the purchasing goods from other countries. So export mean actually, so selling our goods to other countries. For an example, our tea. So we can sell our tea to like Russia or maybe Iran or maybe like other Middle Eastern country. That is kind of export. Our garment, so that goes to the Europe or maybe North America. So that's a kind of export. Like as example for import, like we are having Japanese vehicles, we are having like Apple phones or Samsung phones that are coming from South Korea. So likewise actually, so import and export are main two branches of foreign business. And then we have the auxiliary or the support services, like to carry out the businesses, definitely we have to have some supporting services. So it can be like banking, because banks provide some financial facilities, they accept your deposit, they provide a loan facilities. So likewise actually, so they provide a lot of services even for the foreign businesses, the export and import actually. So they provide a great service for that. And then the transport service, insurance service, likewise actually. So there we have different services that are must to carry out the business. I would say here in the commerce we have two branches, trade and auxiliary service or the support services. So then we can go to the fourth stage of the business evaluation, that about the information era. In the information era, there are two important things to know. The one thing, electronic commerce, and the second thing, that is about the electronic business. So electronic commerce, that's mean actually, so buying and selling activities are conducted through internet. That is very important to understand. Electronic commerce, buying and selling activities are conducted through internet. So you can sell something through internet, at the same time you can buy something through internet. So these are electronic commerce. And the electronic business, all the activities which are belongs to the business that are conducted by the use of internet we call as electronic businesses. All the activities that are carried out through the internet, the businesses that they carry out all the activities through the internet we call as electronic businesses. There are some sites of course actually, so maybe Daras or other sites, they carry out their business activities through internet or the use of the internet. These businesses we can understand as electronic businesses. So then there are some reasons for the popularity of the electronic commerce, mainly why it is important. So you can understand here actually, so business information can be exchanged without documents. So we don't need to keep all the documents. Without documents, we can easily carry out the business information or exchange the business information. With earlier days actually, so we have to print everything, maybe using the post or the courier service, we have to exchange all this information. But nowadays actually, so I think that is not very important. And the next thing, speed up the business activities. Of course actually, so maybe within a few seconds you can do the transaction. So it doesn't take too long. You don't need to visit there. You don't need to meet people. So through the internet we can do all these things. And the emergence of the global market space, of course actually, so this is good the approach to access to the global market. I think businesses are now operating globally. Doesn't matter actually, so where you are as a customer, or where the businessmen are there, or where the vendors are there, doesn't matter actually. So this is kind of good initiation, as well as actually so emergent point for the global market, approaching the global market. And the next thing, increase the quality of goods and services. Of course actually, so not unlike doing the business in the normal way. So I think that will help to increase the quality of the goods and services, because there is a huge competition. We can see how other global players are doing, so we can benchmark these things. Therefore definitely actually, so this will help to increase the quality. And the next thing, saving customers time and energy. Of course actually, so if you want to buy something and if you have to physically visit the shop, so it takes your time, it's wasting your time and also energy. Maybe you have to, as a children of course actually, so you have to ask your parents. They sometimes actually, so they have to get a leave if they are, if your parents are working parents. So I think it's wasting time and money. But if you can log into internet and order place the order, so that's mean actually, so you can save your time as well as energy. And the next thing, increasing computer literacy. Of course actually, so with the use of the internet, and if you are familiarized with these, how to use, how to place the order, definitely actually, so your computer literacy, or the general public, so their computer literacy will definitely increase. And the last point here, improve the infrastructure facilities. Of course actually, so I think IT infrastructure facilities definitely increase with the use of electronic commerce. And then you can see here the trends in the business field. There are some the trends in the business field. You can learn these things in the future sessions with more details. But the one thing here, expansion of globalization, I think not only actually so people are like limited to one geographical area, perhaps Sri Lanka or India or Maldives or whatever other countries, but now we are in the global world. So I think one thing, one trend of course actually so globalizing in every aspect. So this is also important trends. The next thing, emergence of the electronic businesses. I think most of the time, I think with this COVID-19 pandemic, of course actually so that was expedite, but anyway actually so I think now actually so people are more or less actually so they are moving to this use of the electronic businesses, and also use of electronic money rather than using the paper money or the coins. Of course actually so we would prefer to use like debit card or credit card, maybe like other payment options like electronic transactions. I think this is also like another kind of trends. And also concern on environment, this is kind of issue of course actually so with all the developments, children, you can see that actually so I think global warming and also like environmental changes are huge concern. I think that was like not limited to us, like all other countries are talking about this global, the warming and the environmental changes. And the concern on business social responsibilities, of course actually so I think all the businesses are conducting their businesses in the environment, so therefore I think they have the social responsibility reciprocally, they have to provide something for the society. These are some trends. So then let me go to the next point, that is about the classification of businesses. So there are different ways that we can classify business. So here I think how we can categorize business, different based on the nature, based on the ownership, based on the objectives, based on the scale, and also lastly that is based on the production sectors. I think this is very much important you to know about how we can classify businesses. And then as a nature of the business, nature of the production, you can see primary, secondary and tertiary, and the ownership, private ownership and the public ownership. And the objectives, some are profit motive, some are non-profit motive businesses. A scale, larger scale, medium scale and the smaller scale, likewise we can categorize. And the production sector wise we can categorize agriculture, industries and services. I think the next slide you can see actually, so according to this 2020 central bank report, the GDP contribution for each sector, here you can see the agriculture, forestry and finance, that is about 7%. And the industries, the contribution for the GDP, that is about 25.5%, and the services, that is about 58.7%. I think in our economy, the major contribution comes through the service sector. And then the business as a process, I think analysis of the business as a process here. So if we take like a business, always actually, so it's kind of process, like all the businesses, they have to take inputs, and then there is a kind of process, business functions within the organization, and then we can get the output. Input, business functions and the output. Inputs mean all kind of resources that organizations are using. It can be land, labor, the capital, that's mean the money, investment, and the entrepreneurship, knowledge, information, time, everything we can categorize as input, all are resources to the company. And then actually, so if you are having these things, not enough to have these things, but you have to do actually, so in the businesses they usually do the process. In that case actually, so we have administration, so the activities we have to administer, then we have to have production or manufacturing or the operations, then we have to sell our products or the services, we have to do marketing, and the financial activities we have to like get some investment, as well as actually so we want to know the financial, the profit, maybe the company's profitability and these kind of things. And in addition to that, human resource activities like managing people in the company, research and development, management information, and there are different activities. Of course, actually, so you can learn all these things very detailed later, but these are main business functions or the business activities. So then ultimately what we get, it can be good or a service. So that's the output. So I think this is the basic process. With that actually, so I can show you here the example for the business process which is related to the garment industry. So as inputs they are taking the like sewing trades, yarn, fabric, accessories and the machineries, labor, capital. These are examples for the input. Then the business function, obtaining the material, advertising, distribution, obtaining funds, recruitment of employees, training of these employees, conducting service. These are business functions. And finally, what we get actually, so final cloth or the garment is the output of the garment industry. I think this is an example for a business process. Then I quickly go to the stakeholders of the business. I think this is very important you to know actually. So there are different parties who are interested about the business. So I think mainly actually, so we can categorize, we can title them as stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders of the company? How we can define it? The people or the parties who are interested about the business. Here we can categorize stakeholders as two, like internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. As internal stakeholders, we can mainly identify the employees, managers and the owners. As external stakeholders, they are outside to the company. They are outside of the company. We can identify suppliers, society, government, creditors, shareholders and customers. We can learn actually, so why these are stakeholders or why these different parties are interested about the business. I think I can quickly go through it. Why owners are? Owners are the investors of the company. So they invest their money in the company. Why they are interested about the business? They want to know actually, so whether their investment is secure, whether it company make more, the profit. So they want to know the market share, and this due to these kind of reasons they are interested about the business. Then the managers, I think they are mainly the parties who are making the decisions. They are interested about the business because of the to maximize the profit and to know the growth of the business, whether business is growing or declining, and also actually so to make some the successful strategic decisions. Due to these kind of things, managers are interested about the business. Then you can see the employees. Why employees are interested about the business? I think they want to know that actually so maximize their business, the profit of the business, and also actually so growth of the business. They want to know actually so whether their job is secure or not. Due to these kind of things, they are interested about the business. And you have debtors, customers, suppliers and other external parties here. Debtors, they provide loan to the companies or money to the companies because they want to know that actually so whether the company is able to pay back their investment or the loan. So I think to ensure actually so I think whether their finance is secured or investment is secure. Due to these kind of things, debtors are interested about the company. And then the customers, of course actually so they want to know about the company, quality of the goods and services, and also ensure the existence of the business. Today maybe we have the business, maybe tomorrow they can shut down it. So therefore customers are interested about the business. Then you can see the suppliers. I think suppliers, those who provide different kind of raw materials or the machineries and everything to the companies. Suppliers are interested in actually so the continue whether they can continue their orders and to collect money back for their supply. Due to these kind of things, suppliers are interested about the business. And then the potential investors, of course actually so I think they want to know actually so whether this business is growing, whether we can invest in this company in the future. Due to these reasons, they are interested about the business. Government, of course actually so to collect taxes. Businesses, if they earn profit, of course actually so they have to pay something for the government as tax. And then to improve employment, of course actually so for the development of the economy, maybe give some tax relief. Due to these kind of things, governments are interested about the business. And then the community, as community, of course actually so they are interested about the business mainly due to environmental protection, as well as actually so to know about the potential job opportunities. So then I will quickly go to the other thing actually. So why these people, these stakeholders are reasons for important for the business actually. So not only for the stakeholders, of course actually so business also it is important for the business also, these people actually so owners, they are important for the company to increase the investment and also to ensure the existence of the business, and the employees to improve the employees efficiency, to retain the employees and also get them employees attraction to the company. and the debtors to obtain the funds continuously, to obtain the funds at a lower price. Due to these reasons, of course, actually, so businesses are in the need of the knowing or in alert of them, and the government to get some tax relief, and also like infrastructure, get some infrastructure facilities, and due to these kind of things it is very important. And the last thing you can see here, the customers, mainly to protect the market of the relevant goods and services, and also like to build customer confidence, to create customer loyalty. Due to these reasons, it is important for business to know these things. And then let me go to the next thing, that is about the classification of business environment. I think this is very much important for a business, of course, actually, so understanding the business environment. I think in the next 4 headings actually, so we can discuss about the what is business environment, and how we can categorize business environment, and what are the processes in each layer of the business environment. So here, first thing, what is business environment? I think that is very much important you to know. The business environment is factors which are influencing the business operations. So mainly business environment we can categorize into 2, like internal environment as well as external environment. I will say it again, business mainly we can categorize into 2, business environment we can categorize into 2, internal business environment and the external business environment. Internal environment means actually, so all the processes and conditions that are influencing and exist within the organization. So all the processes and the conditions which are which are within the organization. The external environment, that's mean actually, so all the processes that influence and exist outside to the organization. These are outside processes. And then again actually, so we can categorize this as a task environment and the macro environment. Task environment mean actually, so specific organizations or group that influencing to the business, and the macro environment, that's mean actually, so broad environmental forces that are influencing the business. If we go to the next slides, you can see here actually, so what are the main layers of the business environment. Internal environment here, and then the task environment and the macro environment. So I think who are the parties, or who are the forces or the factors which are in the internal environment? We can see here owners, managers, employees. In addition to that actually, so in addition to these forces we can see the culture, the organizational structure, and all other resources are within the organization. The second layer, that is about the task environment. You can see here who are the forces in the task environment, mainly our customers or the buyers, and then we can see the suppliers, or if not actually, so maybe the competitors, maybe potential investors, and also like substitute products, and these kind of things are in the task environment. So then if we go to the macro environment, which is in the very external to the company. So you can see here what are the main forces in the macro environment, like political factors, economic factors, social factors, cultural factors, legal factors, demographic factors, natural factors. I think the global factors, these things are in the macro environment, which is very much important for you to know that actually, so how these each forces are influencing business. I think if I go to the next thing actually, so the main purpose of this business environment analysis, or understanding the internal and external business environment, that is mainly due to understanding the strength, weaknesses, threat and opportunities. If I say it again, strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. What are the things that are in the internal environment? What is the purpose of a scan in the internal environment? That's mainly to understand the strength and weaknesses of the company, or the strength and weaknesses of the business. Sometimes actually, so we have some strength. At the same time, we can have some weaknesses. So therefore, by scanning or by clearly analyzing or scanning the internal environment, we can understand what are the strengths and weaknesses. And then we can see that we have opportunities and threats. Where these opportunities and threats exist? Mainly in the external environment. So the changes of the external environmental forces create some opportunities and threats. So therefore, by carefully analyzing the external environment, we can understand what are the opportunities and threats. The main purpose of this, the internal and external business scanning or the analysis to understand the do the SWOT analysis, in other terms understanding the strength, weaknesses, threats and opportunities. So here we can see the business factors and the description for each factor, but I am not going to explain everything here. Who are the managers, who are the owners, who are the employees, what is organization culture, structure and resources. I think I can simply explain here who are the owners. Owners are the parties who are invested their money in the business, and then the managers who are the parties who mainly, the manager's task is mainly make some decisions in the company or the decisions of the business. And then the employees, I think they mainly engage with the implementing business decisions or doing the task and duties of the company. And then we have organizational culture. I think this is very much important for each company or every company. Every company, they have different culture. So culture means actually, so that is kind of like the culture, it is very broad concept, of course actually. So in the culture, some of the things we can see, some of the things are invisible. So mainly it's comprised with values, beliefs, attitudes, norms and behaviors, habits and these kind of things, as well as some visible things like dress code, how people are talk to others. These kind of things are also a part of the culture. I think these things like the older people actually, so they learn from the previous generation and transform into the next generation. So therefore organization culture also important. It can be sometimes actually so create some like a strength, or sometimes the culture can be a weakness. And also the organizational structure, how this organization functions, resources and authorities are distributed among the different parties, as well as the objectives, and these kind of things are coming under organization structure. This is very much important for every organization. And then the resources, organizations has different resources. It can be the physical resources or maybe non-physical resources like land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, knowledge. Knowledge is an intangible resource because we cannot touch knowledge, so we cannot see knowledge, I think, but it is a kind of resource for a company. So therefore I think these are some factors I think which are in the business environment that you want to understand. So then I think through the internal environmental scanning, as I said earlier, we have to understand the strength and weaknesses. I think how we can each of the business factors can be a strength or a weakness. Here we have given some examples. Owners, having large number of owners, that is kind of a strength. Having a smaller number of owners, that's mean actually, so that's a kind of weakness. If owners withdraw their investment, what will happen to the company? And then the managers, they are increased training and experience. If we have like expertise and managers in the company and experience, very knowledgeable managers in the company, that's mean of course actually, so that's a kind of a strength for a company. But in the other hand actually, so like if they are lacking with training, if they are not like a very like a competent managers, it's a kind of the weakness for the company. Then the employees, if they are having like a clever experiences, the clever knowledge, so that's a kind of a strength. But on the other hand actually, so if they are like lacking with experiences, and if we have unskilled employees, that's mean that is a kind of weakness for the company. And in the organization culture, having a positive attitudes, values and these kind of things, of course actually, so this is kind of a strength. But if they don't have actually so proper value system, employees are with the negative attitudes, is a kind of weakness for the company. And then the organizational structure, like proper division of work. So if they have like a company has properly divide their workload and give the if empowered employees, so these things are strength for the company. I think if they are having like some conflicts of roles, so that's when actually, so that's a kind of weakness for the company. And then the resources, having quality adequate resources, that's a kind of strength. At the same time, if they don't have like actually so enough resources, quality resources or outdated resources, that's a kind of weakness. So then I think we can go to the quickly to the second, the task environment. Main forces, we are having customers, suppliers, competitors, substitute products and the potential businesses or the new entrants. These are also actually so important. They can influence for the company. That's when actually so they can create some opportunities and threats for the company. So here the last point that we want to discuss here, the macro environmental factors. I think earlier also I mentioned you what are the macro environmental forces that can influence for the company. Like we have the political factors, economic factors like inflation, unemployment of the company, interest rate. I think these are some factors which are in the economic environment that can influence the company. And then the next thing, that is social and cultural factors. We can see like beliefs of the employees, values of the individuals, customers' beliefs. I think these are some important factors which are in the social and cultural environment. And then the other thing actually, so technological factors like, and the demographic factors, size of the population and also the composition of the population, whether like male, what about the male representation, female representation, as well as whether we have like more old people or young people. So these things are also very much important, as well as the growth of the population. Some of the countries, of course, actually, so they have the problem of like less growth of the population. So I think these are important demographic factors. And the legal factors like rules and regulations and also the other kind of standards, these all are influencing the businesses. And then the last two factors, that is about the global factors. I think that is also important actually. So the like global changes or different kind of like global trends actually. So I think maybe like trade agreements between some countries or some like regions, as well as actually so trade blocks. I think that's also important. And the last point actually, so I think that is like about the general environment, of course, actually. So there are some other factors, of course, actually. So these are influencing the company. So I think with that I will wind up the session. And also actually, so thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best for you all, my dear children.